Greetings. This is Imaduck here for Quack Poker episode number 5. Big number 5. Here we are. Playing some 2 cent, 4 cent today because for whatever reason I just could not get a table at 5 cent, 10 cent. Like, waited like 20 minutes or something, and I was then just started up a 2 cent, 4 cent table for fun, and now it's filled up, so whatever. So that's what we're playing today. You can see we're up slightly right now. Like, a couple of these players just sat down, so the stats haven't even popped up for them yet and all that. But so far we've been doing okay. This guy right here we've played a few hands with. He's 14 hands with. He seems like a pretty solid player. Okay, now the 5 cent, 10 cent opens. You know what? We're sticking with the 2 cent, 4 cent today. It's going to be super micros today. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and raise. Play it a little loose here. Play that J6. I tend to play a little looser actually in a 2 cent, 4 cent. I think I mentioned this before. It feels like if you're just really aggressive at these tables, people tend to be fairly nitty. So I kind of start as my default mode of being really aggressive. Like, obviously, against certain players, that can be very bad. So you still have to kind of get a feel for the table. But I start off being really aggressive, then kind of adjust as I figure out what the other players are doing, which is kind of the opposite of the normal advice. I feel like here, when our opponent checks it, he's afraid of something. He maybe has some sort of made hand or a hide hand. That 6 is an interesting card there for us on the river. I think here we definitely have to check now, because if he's got a 2, we're beating him. I think this is one of these situations where all the hands that are better than us are definitely going to call, and all the hands that are worse than us are probably going to fold. I mean, he might call with like the 2s, but I kind of doubt it. It'd be pretty close. Yeah, so I think that was fine. So what did he have there? So he just had a high card and was on the draw for hearts, I guess, on the turn. Interesting way to play it. I mean, guy's playing short stack too, so we got to be a little afraid if we get really aggressive there. He's not going to just shove it all in and put us in a weird spot and all that. Checked the big blind here. We could attack this, but I don't really see a point to. Look at that. I am going to put out a little bet here, just to full hands that haven't made it yet. Maybe just take down the pot instantly, and occasionally get people with like an ace to just stick around or whatever. I think if he's got an ace here, he's just going to check it back. He's unlikely to call. If he makes a bet like that, I'm not sure what that means. I mean, that could be a misdraw, that now he's just trying to buy the pot. Or it could be that he does actually have the king or have some big hand or something, and he just knows he's got us beat, but he puts us on some sort of pair. In any case, we didn't lose much in this hand, and I think I'm fine just giving it up. So that's that. Ace 10, looks like we're going to have to play this hand most likely. Going to go ahead and raise it up. So this guy to the left of me, actually we're going to go ahead and fold here. Obviously this re-raise is undersized, and it could be just sort of a misclick, or it could be that this guy just doesn't understand bet sizing. Of course, with the stack his size, maybe he's really planning on shoving it in. We haven't seen this guy. He just sat down. He might be one of these really aggressive short stackers that's really trying to build pots so they can shove them whenever they get the chance, which is kind of the only way to effectively play a short stack is, take advantage of the fact that you're a short stack and you can shove all the time and really push things around. Now he's gotten himself into a situation where he just barely has a big enough bet left in him to, make a dent in the pot. Of course, he started with queens there, or kings there, but runs into trips. Yeah, nothing either of them could do there. But he definitely could have made that pre-flop raise bigger. I mean, and that was really, where he was the most ahead there, and it would have been the most correct way to do it. I don't see why you wouldn't. I mean, even if you just make it 2x, he's still going to call with a lot of hands that you're ahead of. So you're not really folding out 2 more hands. You're still keeping a lot worse hands in there while bloating the pot a little bit. But we're not exactly sure why he sized his bet that way. But obviously he was happy to get it in there with an overpair, especially the way he played his hand, because this guy is probably going to force him to get it in if he had like a jack or anything like that, which, there's plenty of jacks in his range. Anyway, today, our beer of the day is from Boulevard Brewing Company, which is in Kansas City, Missouri. Boulevard Brewing Company is they're becoming pretty popular. You can probably get this beer in most of your stores, at least most of the Boulevard beers. Probably their most famous one is Tank 7, which is their standard saison. So saison is kind of an ill-defined beer type, but it's basically these really light summer beers that use a specific type of yeast that is often fermented pretty warm. Here, I'm okay with just folding since we don't know anything about this player. We could get aggressive here, but I don't really see a point. Um, Anyway, so saisons are nice, light, summery beers. The yeasts are designed to be fermented pretty warm. These saison yeasts, so often you'll get sort of nice, light, fruity characteristics out of it. If you've ever had Tank 7, it's just a great beer to drink when it's out. Nice, hot, sunny day. Of course, I'm inside right now, but it is hot and sunny here in Texas today. I'll be outside later. But now I'm stuck inside playing some poker. So anyway, this is the Saison Brett, which is actually, they started with their normal Tank 7 recipe. I'll hold the whole bottle up for you for the Saison Brett, but this is a special edition where they added in a special type of yeast. I'm going to screw up the name again. It's Brettanomyces, or just commonly referred to as Brett. So there's an extra yeast that they added in there that adds these sort of funky, soury sort of flavors. And that's what we're going for here. Here's an interesting spot. I think because these two stacks are so short, we don't have the implied odds to call here against his isolation bet there. We're going to be out of position. Ace-2 suited is not a bad hand if we're hoping for the straight or flush possibilities, but obviously we're not going to feel good about getting it in if an ace comes down. We probably still have to with their stacks being so short, but yeah, it's probably not a plus EV play to call there. All right, going to go ahead and raise it up to 10 cents. And we'll take it down. So it's an interesting version of their other beer, their normal Tank 7. It's going to be a little more, they call it farmhousey. It's kind of it was really the hip term of last summer, these farmhouse beers and stuff like that. It's not quite a sour beer like we talked about before. But it gives a little bit of that funk, a little bit extra character. Sometimes they call it really earthy tastes and that sort of thing. And that's what this is supposed to have to it. So Tank 7, I like it a lot. I haven't had very many other beers by Boulevard, but I've got a lot of recommendations. I've heard a lot of great things about them. They're winning, they're getting a lot of great ratings and stuff. And they're actually a pretty cheap beer to get. And you can find it, like I said, in any store that has decent beer, at least the ones I've seen around here. And in Texas, we don't usually get a lot of out-of-state beers, so finding this is pretty good. So if we can find it, it means you could probably find it anywhere. And so almost certainly you can find this somewhere by you. So I will open that in just a moment, but we've got a monster here. Since we've been playing aggressive, there's no reason to slow play this here unless we thought this opponent was really aggressive. But he just gives it up. But we probably weren't getting any money out of that regardless. I'm going to go ahead and raise it up here. I've got a suited Broadway hand. We're playing it loose here. I actually should have made that 10 cents there, not 8 cents, at least with the way I'm betting now. Here we see a 3-bet from a player we haven't seen a 3-bet from before. We're going to be playing this out of position. It's not a super strong hand. He could be attacking us because he thinks we're loose. We really don't know. We don't know anything about it. I'm inclined to think he probably is strong. He did make that bet pretty fast, so I'm just fine with giving it up there. I think against certain opponents, you could 4-bet bluff that, 4-bet semi-bluff that hand there and take it down a lot of the time. But until you really know your opponent, there's no reason to go too crazy. Yeah. Here with the Q7 suited, we are playing pretty loose. I'm okay. I could also raise this up here. But because, I'm just going to call it here. We're just going to see what happens. Let's just see a flop. Alright, so we hit middle pair here. It's not a great spot to be in. There are a lot of kings in his range, raising from the button here. But we will go ahead and give it one call and then just see what he decides to do from here. Again, we don't have a ton of information on this player. His pre-flop raise percentage seems a little small, so, he is kind of indicating strength, and there are a lot of strong hands in his range. I don't think we can call a second barrel here unless we really want to try to bluff the flush draw or something like that. I think he's got a king a lot of the times. It's possible he even has a made flush at this point. There's just it's just a little too scary. And every once in a while He could maybe show up with like a straight draw there. That could be a bluff there. I don't really know, but out of position, it's just we're not going to get a lot of value out of that, and I don't know. Again, don't feel like fighting over it too much. All right, so I'm gonna pour some beer for me here. So yeah, this is a special limited edition. So you might not get this exact version where you're at. You definitely should be able to get Tank 7. But I'm sure if you go to any like fancy place, this is pretty widely distributed, I think. The Brett version, the Saison Brett. All right. So this guy's raising again. Again, we don't really know what's going on, but we are on the button with a suited king. I am just playing it super loose today, but you know what? We're playing 2 cent, 4 cent. We can do whatever we want today. Sometimes fun to play around with a little crazier than you think. I don't think he connects much with this flop here. Granted, we don't have a lot going for us other than position, but I am just planning on just attacking this guy. If he tries to do anything else here, it's possible he has a 10. It's possible he's got some weird straight draw, but I think it's unlikely that he's pretty strong, and like especially with this bet here, I think he's just like I don't think it's very strong. I'm gonna go ahead and raise it up to 55 here, 55 to take down 61. I think that works enough that the odds are good for that. If he calls us here, I don't know what we're gonna do on the river. It's gonna be a little tough. But yeah, I just think he's just not connected with that board at all, or if he is, just very weakly, and I think that bet, yeah, we'll take it down most of the time. But we're still kind of just testing this player too and figuring out what he's doing. He seems to be pretty aggressive post flop, so it'll be interesting to see. Interesting to test with him, play with him a bit, see what's going on. All right. This beer, they do cork it, which I don't think they do for the normal Tank 7. And they even have a beautiful branded cork. It says Boulevard right on it. Look at that. Ooh, and it makes a nice little pop. Boulevard.com on the cork. That is classy. That is a class act right there. Yep, nice little pop there. I can even smell a little interesting something off it. A little farmhousiness off of it. Ooh, and we get a walk with our 3-9. It's always nice. It's always about the best thing you can expect to get with a 3-9 offsuit. Alright. So there's the beer. I poured it. It was really carbonated, so it's got a pretty big head. Sorry, let me go ahead and attack this first. Yeah, it's just super carbonated. Look at that beer. It's just bubbling like crazy. I don't know how well you can see that where you're at, but it is bubbling like crazy. On this flop here, we flopped the gut shot, so we're going to go ahead and bet. This is a pretty interesting gut shot too, because he very well could have made the straight as well, but made a worse straight than us, and so we could make a lot off of this. We'll see if he like raises us here. No, he just gives up on it. I guess we don't make a ton off of it because he's such a short stack, but I still think the flop bet was fine. We're c-betting a lot, and but we have 2 overcards, and this is the gut shot, so I think it was fine, even though our implied odds aren't great, just because, well, from what we know so far, he's got a pretty high fold c-bet too, so might as well. That was kind of a misclick. I thinking too fast here. Did not notice this guy had limped, but whatever. I'm okay with that. Whatever. We're just playing a game here. This is really close between betting and checking. The problem is like the odds that somebody else is connected with this are fairly high. At the same time, we have the best hand here a pretty significant amount of time. And so I don't want to let people keep getting a bunch of free cards, because then we almost certainly won't have the best hand four-handed. Okay, well now I'm feeling pretty good about this. The only thing he could have here is the flush draw. I think what I'm going to do is just jam it here and see what he does. Because if he's connected with this board at all, if he's got a flush draw, then yeah, then he's got a call there. And so we get it in good, and yeah, it's good for us. I think that was good there. Yeah, on the turn we're 77%, so we had quite the advantage there. I mean, yeah, that's good. Yeah, because even if there's another queen wins, we're still ahead and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I was okay with that. But I think the shove is definitely the way to go there, because it makes him, if I just make a smaller bet, it puts him at some decision, and then we hit the river, and we might not know what to do if like that flush actually makes it. We don't know if he's been sitting on a flush or not. I just feel like we make more mistakes if we don't just shove it there. We shove it there. We put him to his decision, and he's short enough that he pretty much has to call with any hand that's connected with that board, including a lot of flush draws that we're way ahead of, or made hands like the queen there, because he can put us on a flush draw, etc., etc. Yep, so this beer, yeah, serious, interesting foam too. But yeah, it's bubbling like crazy, and the foam, the head is very like light and fluffy. I don't, I don't know what that means, but it just is. It's very light and fluffy. It's not like a big, thick, smooth head. Yeah, I think, yeah, so it's definitely, I think earthy is the right word that people use here. It really seems very earthy. Well, we are just flopping the nuts every freaking time here. I'm going to start off with a call, just see what this guy does here. Um, I feel like if we just call, there's a decent likelihood that he keeps bluffing on the turn. Here I do want to bet in case. I mean, there are drawing hands he could have. I don't think he has any of them since he didn't bet out on the turn. But I still don't want to. Again, I don't want to put us in some weird situation in the river where some card comes down we don't really understand it. I also think it looks a little more bluffy if we bet here as opposed to on the river where there's a number of scary cards that come down that he'll almost certainly fold on. All right, we're going to go ahead. So I could have 3-bet that flop as well, but we were in position, so I'm less likely to 3-bet when I'm in position like that. And also, again, I think he's just going to fold a lot of stuff versus giving him the opportunity to bluff. And it's not like, although there were some scary cards that come down, I wasn't that scared of what could come down. I think if you average it all out, that's, more often than not, he's just got a couple of high cards or something there, or maybe a low pair. We're just going to keep being aggressive here. We want to balance our play so that we're being aggressive with our made hands and our not made hands. Sometimes that's not as important because your opponents just aren't paying attention to how you're playing. But I think usually if we're playing this aggressively, as aggressive as we are, it's people will pick up on that because they'll be like, oh, this guy keeps betting into me, can't always have it, blah, 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 blah. I think it's easy for players, especially at these stakes, to get really frustrated by getting pushed around and all that. And so you can force them to make a bunch of mistakes. Yeah, this flop here, it's kind of a scary flop again. I think I'm willing to put 1 bet out there and then fold after that. Just make one. I mean, our small bets have been taking down these pots mostly. This guy could go crazy here. I mean, we know, again, he has been pretty aggressive. He could, 3-bet us here or something. He is tanking. Who knows what he's going to do here? I'd be surprised if he tank folds on this flop. It doesn't really make any sense unless he's just, multi-tabling or something and just busy or distracted, which is kind of what it's looking like. Because, I mean, it wasn't a very big bet, so there's no real reason to tank fold here. If you've connected it all with that, you probably call there. Go ahead and fold the 3-5. So we keep losing people and gaining people at this table. I don't know, but I'm feeling okay. We're up a little money so far, and I feel like we're kind of running the table here. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. So I do like this beer. Yeah, I think it is reminiscent of the Tank 7, but I think there really is a different. Yeah, earthy is the word they use, and that's the only word I can think of that comes to mind when I'm tasting this. Is just that earthy character. It still has the nice sort of fruity sense that you get from the just smelling it, from the aroma that you had with Tank 7. But in the taste, even in the aroma, you get a little bit of this earthy is kind of a funny word because it's I don't want to drink dirt, right? But no, you would know what I'm talking about if you've ever had one of these farmhouse style ales. I think this exactly hits what people are talking about when they talk about a farmhouse style beer. Of this really just earthy, simple, nice little taste. It's a interesting character to beer that you normally wouldn't. I think people who just drink crappy beers don't really think about. These kind of tastes being associated with beers, and so it makes it really interesting flavor if you're not used to it. Actually, it reminds me a lot of the brewery I reviewed last week, Jester King. They do a lot of beers in this farmhouse style. I mean, that was kind of how they got their start. And I mean, they expand with their sours and the other things too, but that's kind of what they're all about, are these. And so this is kind of a little bit in the same vein, although very different from that beer we had last week. I'm going to call here with the Ace-5 suited. I just think there's decent implied odds for it. And of course, I mean, we're just going to flop trips every time, so whatever. I'm gonna, yeah, here definitely four-handed. There's no way you can't bet here. I mean, unless I knew this guy was just super aggressive and always going to bet if there's no action. I think I'm gonna make a bet. Start off with a smallish bet to try to keep some hands in. Um, I mean, these guys are just kind of giving up every hand. So even though we're hitting the nuts every time, it doesn't really matter because they're just giving up to any bet. So I guess there's that. It is kind of a sad thing. So I mean, that could be an argument for playing more passively. But I mean, if you let that, that is a little bit of a scary flop, and you can really open it up to some flush draws getting there and other things if you just let it sit there four-handed. Usually four-handed people aren't going to just fold to the first bet, especially if it's not a huge bet, and especially again if it's coming from the guy who's bet at basically every hand we played. One would think they'd get a little aggressive, but I mean the board really only connects with like flush draws there and the random 5 or 7. But even still, you can imagine people with like ace high hands. I don't know. I guess given the pre-flop action, nobody was really strong to begin with. It was just min raise, call, call, call. So nobody was super strong anyway, or else they would have three bet there most likely. So I guess it's not surprising to see the fold around, but I don't see any other option than to just bet out on the flop there. I know no reason to get really tricky. You just kind of open the door for other issues, I think. And again, if they are on the flush draw, they'll stay in that hand, and we want to tax them for it as opposed to giving them free cards. We want to tax them while we're ahead and all that. All right. Yeah, I mean, these players, for the most part, seem pretty nitty, other than this Boston Gior 87. So these other guys have just been pretty passive, pretty nitty. Haven't really done much post flop at all. This guy, on the other hand, has been open limping a lot, which we haven't tested him too much. I haven't really done any like raises or isolation bets or whatever against him yet. So that is something we could do in a bit to see how he reacts. I found some players like this that limp too much will basically just call any isolation raise, no matter what, with any two cards, which is a problem when you're, like he is, opening 54% of the time. Like, you are getting your money in bad a good portion of the time when you do that. On the other hand, some of them will fold kind of reasonably or overfold to any sort of isolation raise. I think we've seen other people isolation bet him though, and he's kind of called. So I mean, I think he is the type who will just stick around, and so that means we want to bet for value a lot if we're going to isolation bet him. And again, if if you're not familiar with the poker terms, isolation bet meaning he open limps. He doesn't raise or anything. He just open limps, and then we've got position on him, and then we're going to make a largish raise in order to probably force him to call, but really discourage other people from calling. So it's an isolation bet, so it'll just be me and him in the hand, hopefully, when I make that raise. Because the other option would be just calling, and if we're just calling a limp, it's very likely that the people behind me are going to call as well. And so poker's a lot easier to play, especially if you're more skilled, heads up than anything else. Especially, I mean, there are certain hands that are better in a multi-way pot. But most of the time, so you want to be doing isolation bets with hands that have good value and heads up and try to get the player heads up. I don't see any reason to attack this with the ace-5. It's just a little too weak to really attack the limps here. Because again, this guy's open limping. How strong can he really be if he's open limping like that? It's hard to say, but I mean, because he is open limping fairly tight from the few hands we have, right? His VPIP is 24. With the preflop raise of 15. So, I mean, he might have some decent hands in there. He might be open limping even like King Jacks and stuff like that. So, who knows? But, whatever. But he seems pretty weak here. 7-8 suited. Okay. Yeah, so he's open limping some speculative hands. This guy is just calling with anything 3-2 offsuit. Yeah, why not? He just checked it. Sorry, that's right. He was in the big blind. So he just checked it with 3-2 offsuit and then just gave up on that hand pretty quick. So that's pretty standard. I guess a little surprising that he didn't get aggressive there, because it kind of seems like when that goes check, 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 when that goes check, check on the flop, Like any bet will probably take it down. Maybe. I mean, the third diamond is a little bit scary because now if the other guy does have a diamond, so if Pippengrod had the diamond there, I guess Boston dude is going to have to be a little bit nervous about making a bet there because if he does have a diamond, he'll probably continue on. But I think that's unlikely, and I think you could push that out anyway with a couple aggressive bets. So yeah, I feel like that would be a good place for Boston Gian to be aggressive there. He definitely could have taken it down. Of course, actually, I mean, now he did make this pair with the 7 here on the turn, but again, I think if Boston made 2 bets, I don't think he would stay in the hand. That board is just too wet for him to bother with it, really, I think. Can't be 100% sure because we don't know this player that well, but that would be my guess, is that would be a pretty easy spot just to be a little bit aggressive and push him out. Didn't see the pre-flop action here, but it looks like there was some raising going on as the pot is $1 right now. And he really doesn't have much behind, so he makes a pretty big bet, and he's basically saying, I'm going to be all in on that hand. Nine's definitely opening. We said under the gun, now I'm going to be raising to 12. It's the way I'm trying to do it now, so 3x under the gun. So I'm like doing 3x, 2.5x, 2x, 2x, and then 2.5x in the small blind are kind of my standard. But again, that's something you shouldn't really force yourself to stick with. That you can have a starting point, but then adjust it as the play goes on based on what other players are doing. If you're getting 3-bet real light all the time, you can limp more, or make smaller raises so that it's not as damaging when they go ahead and 3-bet you and all that sort of stuff. But we got 9s here, very likely the best hand, and yeah, we take it down. Q7 offsuit, not super excited about it. But yeah, I'm kind of happy with this session here. So last time we did the heads up sit and goes, and I was on a heater for a while with those, but now it's kind of evened out. I've got a win rate now over like 60 heads up tournaments. I think my win rate is about 60%, which is like a 10% return on investment or something, which is not the best. Okay, so here's a situation where we could raise, but I think it's much better to call here because pocket threes were basically set mining, and when you're set mining, it's great to do that in a multi-way pot because then you have a bigger chance of someone else connecting with the board and you getting money out of them and all that kind of stuff. There could be some scary boards in this multi-way pot, but whatever. Now here, it's unlikely we have the best hand, so we're just going to hope it checks around and a 3 pops out. But unless it's like min bet, call, we're probably just going to fold to any bets here. Ace is interesting. These guys have been just so nitty. I'm really tempted to make a bet here. It's weird with the 4-way pot. I think it's such a small bet here, and we do have the off chance of making our trips, and we do have a decent chance of these guys. They've just been folding to everything. We do have a good chance of people just folding if they haven't connected with this board at all. It's kind of unlikely that the ace hit any of them, as everybody played so passively pre, although these guys have been kind of passive pre anyway. But it's also possible we have the best hand, although when it goes call, we almost certainly don't. One of them's got a 6 or a 7. We could probably bet it here, though, because I really don't think either of them have an ace. Like, I think Boston whatever is the only guy who can have an ace here. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and barrel it here and just see what happens. I don't think he's going to call with like a 6. Yeah. So I think that worked out all right. So, I just felt like he almost certainly had a weak pair there. And I think the way we played a very convincing like ace there, where we make a small bet, maybe because we want to keep people in, because we know we have the best hand, and it's not likely to decrease, and then we make a bet again and just, scare out any of the single pair hands that try to stick around. At that point, we are turning our pocket threes into a bluff, but when it goes to 3 hand, when we get 2 callers behind like that, they either have better than pocket threes, or they have total garbage. And so really at that point, it's not like we can fold out. It's not like we can get callers with worse hands. Is a 2 going to call if we make a really small bet, or is a 2 going to try to make a small bet, or I don't know. I think you just have to bet it out there and try to fold the slightly better hands that, the non-ace hands. Maybe a 9 would probably call there, though. That would be the one thing to worry about on that river, but whatever. And then there also could have been some flush draws there. Who knows? But anyway. All right. Let's go ahead and raise it up, because why not? But you can see here, just playing super aggressive at 2.74%. I found it to be a lot more effective at these stake levels. For some reason, you hop up to 5 cents, 10 cents, and all of a sudden people, I don't know, they do. You see a lot more people playing very aggressively, and will start fighting back at you and start picking up that you're playing aggressively and adjusting to your play accordingly. At these levels, you don't see as many people doing that. I was surprised to see that difference between the levels, but I think it definitely is a real difference. So we're going to go ahead and c-bet here. Not crazy about this spot, but we're really just hoping to take it down here and maybe tax some sticky players, but neither of these guys have been super sticky, so yeah, I think we'll just, again, take it down with the c-bet. I mean, when this guy's got a full c-bet, if this is an accurate number of, 80% plus, like, he really can just c-bet anything, anywhere. I mean, he's just folding so much, whatever. And then this guy has just seemed really nitty. I mean, his fold c-bet, well, see, he sees so few flops that we just don't have good statistics on his fold c-bet, but he just seems very nitty and very fit or fold in general, and so if he doesn't connect there, he's always going to fold. So I think just on your, your instantaneous odds there, you've got enough fold equity that you should just be betting at most any flop, really. And we did have a pair, so, there was that. Granted, our hand didn't have a lot of cards that could improve it, but, we had a pair. It could have been the best hand. I guess with that board, the one thing is there weren't really a lot of drawing hands you would expect to stay in, so you really would only expect to stay in, like, pairs that were better than ours. But, whatever. Maybe if Boston guy had an ace, he'd stick around. I don't know. So I'll probably play one more orbit here, and we'll call it a video. So what was I saying? So yeah, I played a lot of the heads up sit and goes. Like I said, I played about 60, and whatever. I had about a 60% win rate, which isn't bad. The problem is, it's like for the $2 sit and goes, though, that's a really slow way to make money. Like I really made, and like some of those sit and goes, the non-turbo ones can just take, half an hour, 45 minutes, and you just really got to grind it away for a 10% return on investment. This is weak enough here. We'll just. I'm tempted to go a little nuts here, but let's be reasonable. Let's give up the 7 deuce suited. It's suited though. I know. I just don't like giving up them suited cards. Anywho, yeah, this guy is nitty enough that I'm pretty much gonna be raising with any 2 cards. Plus, I think we can beat him post flop a lot of the time. If he raises us there, we have to fold. But if he doesn't raise us there, then we can feel pretty confident about just taking down with the c-bet unless he happens to connect, etc., etc. Well, we got a raise and a call, so with kings, we obviously then just have to raise again. I'm okay with making it 31. Seems all right to me. If we just take it down here, I'm not too upset about that. If we get 2 callers, I'm a little worried, but I mean, they're kings. They're going to win most of the time. If we get 2 callers and an ace comes down, I'm going to be a little worried, but don't feel too bad about that. If we just take it down, we just take it down. I'm okay with that. I'll take it. Just ship it. This guy's thinking, what's my note on this guy? He calls me here. Well, we almost certainly have the best hand here, unless he made trips, which my note says he's willing to slow play. So he comes out here with a bet. What does he do that for? I mean, I guess he's just afraid. He knows we're going to c-bet, and so he doesn't want... and so he doesn't want to fold to that, so he just bets out here. Or, I mean, he doesn't have too many hands that connect with that board. I mean, so the only thing here he could be on is like a draw. If he's got trips, it sucks. But I think we just have to jam here to see if he's on some sort of draw. Okay, yeah, he turns trips. Nicely done. Well, this was a good session till that happened. I feel like there's nothing else we could do there, though. I mean, we've got this overpair. He is playing it really strong, so like I definitely was worried. I wasn't the happiest about shoving it there, but I felt like shoving it to force him to get it in with his draws was pretty important there. Um, I don't think we could have sized it too much bigger pre, other than like shoving basically would be the only thing to keep eights out, which you might call with those, which we'd be happy with. But I don't think there's any point to shoving there. But with a flop that dry, with just like maybe some, like I said, don't. I mean, when that flop came down, the only thing I was afraid of was trips. Now, unfortunately, he turned the trips. We could have raised him, and I don't know if he would have folded there if we raised him. I mean, he's got an overpair as well. I don't know if he'd be afraid of our bigger overpair. He'd probably see it as kind of bluffy. But yeah, I don't know. That kind of sucked. It was a big pot too. It was a shame, but what are you gonna do? So our session was going well, and then that happened. No, sorry about that. And then that happened, so that was a little unfortunate. But I really don't think there's much else you could do there. Like I said, other than maybe three betting that flop is maybe a little better. But I mean, given his hand, like the odds of it improving, are so slim there. I mean, he's literally got, you know, two outs or whatever, so 4% to improve. Like, he just lucked the hell out, and good job for him and all that, I guess. That'll be it for the session. Kind of a slightly disappointing to end on that down note there. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing. Like I said, I think we were playing fine. I think most of my play there demonstrated how you can kind of run a table with really aggressive play at these stakes. And I was playing looser than usual, but it's fun to play loose, right? And I mean, when these guys are this nitty and just folding to so many c bets and everything else, and then I think it's okay to play really loose like that, because you can just be aggressive at every hand and take down most of them. And you saw too, we were making pretty small bets, so we weren't really losing any money. We weren't really risking a lot of big money or anything like that. We also made a lot of big hands this session, and then it was sad that our big hand at the end did not pan out. But that's how she goes sometimes. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this. Um, and if you have comments, please comment below. I'll keep doing these guys every week as long as people are watching them. And feel free if you want to tell people about this or whatever and all that. Right now, I'm not getting a ton of viewers, but I am going to promote a little bit more in the future, and hopefully get some people interested and all that. But if you want to tell your friends, Quack Poker is where it's at. If you like beer, if you like poker, this is where it happens. All right, anyway, thanks for watching. Have a good one.